A young woman is butchered on a train, and his first instinct is to scold the public for reacting the wrong way. No sympathy, no anger at the system that kept a violent man free, just MAGA's politicizing this. Newsflash, Brian. Wanting justice is not political. Wanting to lock up murderers isn't a MAGA talking point. It's basic survival. Hey guys. You've probably seen the brutal clip that's been everywhere on social media. Although there's tragedy after tragedy, it seems, every day, every other day. So you don't know which one I'm talking about for this show. This is one that the media outlets, the big ones, avoided like it was contagious. They stayed quiet until they had no choice. So I want to walk through what really happened and all the red flags involved just popped up in the aftermath. Her name was Iryna Zarutska. She was 23 years old, and she was Ukrainian. She came here legally with her family in 2022 after Russia invaded. She fled war, literal bombs falling on her city. She thought America would be safe. She got a job at a pizza shop. She worked hard. She loved animals. She wanted to build a normal life. But late last month, yes, it was that long ago, and it's just now being spread, in Charlotte, North Carolina, she got on a train and she sat down in front of a man named Decarlos Brown Jr., a career criminal, 14 prior arrests, schizophrenic, and he's out roaming the streets like nothing's wrong. What happened next is one of the most horrifying things that you'll ever see. I'm going to play this surveillance clip. If you haven't seen it yet, warning, it's very graphic. The one I'm playing, he stops before the actual stabbing, to be blunt. If you have seen it, I'm sorry to put it in front of you again. This is what the media is trying to bury, and it deserves to be seen. So, roll this. Just pulls it right out. Footage that came out after that showed him stabbing her in the chest 3 times. She was stunned. She almost felt like, I think she just thought he hit her. She looked down and saw what had happened and slowly slid off of the train chair and onto the ground as she bled out and died. Other angles, they show her in shock. They show her crying. They end up showing her bleeding out. This is the one I chose because it's vulgar. But the part that makes you sick all over again is that there were 4 other passengers in that car. They sat there. They did nothing. They just let her die. Some of them even started to walk away. And if that's not enough to turn your stomach, listen to this. As the killer walks off, knife dripping with actual blood, Brown reportedly takes off his sweatshirt and says, and I quote, "I got that white girl. I got her." That's not me speculating. That's what multiple reports say was caught on video by witnesses. You tell me, what does that sound like? Because if that's not a hate crime, the word has no meaning anymore. This happened in late August, but you didn't hear about it until a week later, at least, when the surveillance video leaked and social media forced the issue. The major outlets ignored it until they couldn't anymore. The usual, CNN, MSNBC, the whole lot of them. Why? Because it doesn't fit any of the narratives. Wrong color victim, wrong color attacker, wrong weapon. It was a knife, so they can't use it for their gun control lectures. And the wrong kind of immigrant. She was actually here legally. So the media just let it vanish. Pretend it didn't happen. And that's exactly why people don't trust the media anymore. They bury stories like this when the truth hurts their politics. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to unpack the horror of this, the hypocrisy, the political spin, and the cowardice of the leaders who refuse to face the reality of what's happening in their cities. This is Stay in the Fray podcast. It is September the 10th, 2025. Let's roll. So the country, the world, really, just watched a young woman get butchered on a train. You'd expect the mayor of the city that it happened in to come out swinging, demanding justice, vowing to make the city safe. Not so much. This is Charlotte, and Mayor Vi Lyles gave us one of the weakest, most tone-deaf responses I've ever seen. Allow me to inform you of what Vi said. This is a tragic situation that sheds light on problems with society's safety nets related to mental health care and the systems that should be in place. Okay. Oh, good. She's already softening the killer into a victim. He didn't commit murder, no, he just fell through a safety net. Poor guy. She emphasized that the suspect has long struggled with mental health and appears to have suffered a crisis. You think? A fucking crisis? Lady, a crisis is a panic attack at work. This man pulled a knife and butchered someone on a train. Call it what it is. She continues, mental health problems must be treated with the same compassion, diligence, and commitment as cancer or heart disease. So now we're comparing cold-blooded murder to cancer patients. This is unreal. Do you hear that? Stabbing innocent people is just simply another diagnosis to treat. She said, I want to be clear that I'm not villainizing those who struggle with mental health or those who are unhoused. Well, of course not. God forbid. We villainize the guy dripping in blood saying, I got that white girl. Heaven forbid we hurt his feelings. It's not about those other people right now. It's about this person. And even more, those who are unhoused, homeless, are more frequently the victim of crimes and not the perpetrators. So it's okay? Because usually the unhoused are the victims? There is 0 point in saying this at this time. Tell me the next time a homeless man gets butchered by an innocent woman on a train. I'll condemn that too. I've never heard of that happening. Ever. But hey, I'll bet CNN would cover that one wall to wall for you. She says, we will never arrest our way out of issues such as homelessness and mental health. That's great. The translation, just let them roam on the streets until they kill someone. That's her plan. What in the actual fuck? This is supposed to be leadership. There is more sympathy for the killer than the victim. This is a pattern. That isn't compassion. It's cowardice. It's disgusting. And after much backlash for this woke, cowardly response, the mayor released a more appropriate response a little later on. She said, as I reflect on the tragic murder of Iryna Zarutska, my heart continues to go out for her family. Well, finally. It took the internet ripping you apart to get even here. She goes on to call it a tragic failure by the courts and the magistrates. Well, no shit. Brown had 14 arrests and was still free, just walking around. It took you 3 days, that's how long it was in between, to say what everyone else said immediately. She goes on. Our police arrest people only to see them released, which undermines safety. Thanks for noticing. God, you run the city. Do something about that. She says, we need a bipartisan solution to repeat offenders. What the fuck does bipartisan solution mean? What does this have to do with anything right now? The translation is, I'm still more worried about my politics than people bleeding out on my trains. She announced that there were going to be more security patrols, more guards, redeployed staff. Those are great ideas, finally. It should have been your first words, not your last. When your first instinct after a murder is to protect the image of the criminal instead of the life of the victim, you shouldn't be in office. That simple. Vi Lyles showed us exactly where her priorities are. And spoiler alert, they're not with the innocent people of Charlotte. And now we get to CNN because, of course, they had to step in and make this whole thing worse. Enter Brian Stelter, the guy who thinks his job is scolding America for noticing reality. Let's hear what he had to say.
Story has trickled up from local news to social media and now to the president's attention. And it's being used, as you said, Brianna, as a political symbol, with MAGA media calling for more forceful punishments and more incarceration. I have to say, some of the replies to Musk, some of the comments around this story are baldly racist, stoking fear of African Americans because this man attacked a white woman. The open racism on sites like X today, it's eye-popping. But there are also legitimate questions about this so-called career criminal, someone who had been a repeat offender. And those questions, I hope they're not lost amid all of the cesspool kind of comments on social media.
Oh man, I wouldn't use the word baldly at all, Stelter. Let's take this piece by piece. Stelter says the story went from local news to social media to the president's attention. Yeah, Brian, because you didn't cover it. That's how news works. People see it, they share it, and shame networks like yours into finally pretending to care. You're welcome. He said it's being used as a political symbol. MAGA is calling for more forceful punishment and incarceration. Oh no, the horror. People want criminals punished. Imagine that. According to Stelter, it's now a partisan issue not to want your daughter stabbed on a fucking train. It's unreal. Stelter says some of the comments baldly racist. You mean the killer walking out with the blood on his knife saying, "I got that white girl"? Is that the racism that you mean, Brian? Or is it only racism when it doesn't target white people? That's the message that you're sending here, just in case you didn't know. He said, we need to be questioning the career criminal aspect. I hope it doesn't get lost in social media. Lost in social media? Buddy, that's the only reason anyone's even talking about. It's you clowns ignored it. Social media is the only place that news breaks anymore. You're just mad it makes you look irrelevant, which you are. Brian Stelter is the human embodiment of media gaslighting. A young woman is butchered on a train and his first instinct is to scold the public for reacting the wrong way. No sympathy, no anger at the system that kept a violent man free, just MAGA's politicizing this. Newsflash, Brian. Wanting justice is not political. Wanting to lock up murderers isn't a MAGA talking point. It's basic survival. You're so blinded by Trump derangement syndrome, you and your whole fucking channel, you can't even say, hey, maybe stabbing refugees on trains is bad. Instead, you frame the outrage as what's dangerous. You attack the people who are demanding safety. You side with the chaos because that's what the narrative demands. The left wonders why America has tuned you out. These people do not report the news anymore. They protect criminals, they scold the public, and they spin tragedy into lectures. Stelter doesn't belong on a news channel. He belongs in a parody sketch. But sadly, the joke's on us because his shtick is real life. I want to talk about the hypocrisy. This is a big deal. This story exposes it like nothing else. Hypocrisy exposing is one of the main things I do here. Do you remember Daniel Penny and Jordan Neely on the train? How about Derek Chauvin and George Floyd? Obviously, those names were shoved down America's throat for months. Statues, murals, silence at sports games, media panels crying every night. You couldn't escape it. And then here comes Iryna Zarutska, a 23-year-old refugee working at a pizza shift. No criminal record, no history of violence, just a hardworking young woman riding the train home. She gets butchered by a career criminal with a knife, and the same media outlets that gave you wall-to-wall George Floyd coverage, they go radio silent. George Floyd, career criminal who once robbed a pregnant woman at knife point. Multiple prior arrests. Jordan Neely, threatening passengers on a subway, saying he was going to kill someone. He was ready to die, and he had 40-something prior arrests. These people were painted as martyrs, saints, civil rights icons. It was disgusting. Meanwhile, Iryna Zarutska, innocent, hardworking, law-abiding, doesn't even get a headline until social media forces it. Definitely no murals. I didn't hear any silence before any kickoffs this last weekend. No speeches in Congress. Why? Because she doesn't check any of their boxes. I'll break it down real quick. How about race? She's the wrong color. White victim doesn't fit the script. How about the attacker? Wrong color again. Can't admit that crime stats they don't want you to see. The weapon, that's a knife. That's not a gun. Wait, they can't scream, ban the AR-15s. She was an immigrant. Here's the kicker. She was a legal immigrant, a refugee. The very thing they claim to care about. I suppose she needed to be an illegal immigrant to be under their radar. If they highlight this event, this tragedy, this horror, it pits their protected groups against each other. So they bury it. So tell me this. If a white guy had walked up and stabbed a black woman on that train, do you think we'd even be talking about anything else? You'd have riots in the streets, Al Sharpton booking his plane ticket before the blood was even dry. But when it's flipped, silence, a blackout. And you can't deny it. Because for the media, it's never about the victim. It's about the narrative. And if your tragedy doesn't help the agenda, you don't exist in their eyes. Irena should be a household name, should be the face of vigils, of outrage, of demands for safety. Instead, she's just another casualty in a system that values spin over lives. That's the hypocrisy. And we're sick of it. So here we are, another young woman dead, another career criminal roaming the streets when he should have been locked up years ago, another mayor giving sympathy speeches for the killers, another CNN anchor scolding you for being upset, and another example of why the majority of this country is furious. They told us George Floyd was a saint. They told us Jordan Neely just had some issues. They told us that criminals were victims and victims were disposable. But when Iryna Zarutska, legal immigrant, refugee, hardworking young woman, was slaughtered on a train, they shrugged and looked the other way. Because admitting the truth would blow up the entire narrative of who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. The left loves to call themselves the party of tolerance, compassion, and love. Tolerance for killers, compassion for criminals, and love for chaos. But for the actual innocent, for the refugee who trusted America to be safer than a war-torn Ukraine, nothing. They don't care. If this is what tolerance looks like, they can keep it. If this is love, I want no part of it. Crime is out of control. Soft on crime policies have failed. Bail reform has failed. Liberal mayors and city councils have failed. And every time something like this happens, they point fingers at Trump or MAGA instead of admitting that their own disaster. That's why their approval ratings are tanking. It's why people are waking up. It's why they're fading. And it's only going to get worse for them. This podcast is called Stay in the Fray for a reason, because this is the fight. This is the battleground. And the truth is simple. We will not stop talking about Iryna Zarutska. We will not let her name be buried or any like her. And we will not accept a country where innocent people bleed out on trains while politicians protect the killers. To the media, shame on you. To the politicians, shame on you. And to the people listening, we fight back by refusing to be silent. So join me, share this stuff, help. Let's grow the team. We're a team. So stay loud, stay relentless, stay unafraid, stay in the fray. Love you guys.